The Republic of Colombia, nicknamed the Great Colombia by historiography to differentiate it from the current country, was a state that encompassed the current Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, and Ecuador. Although the idea of its creator, the always remembered and controversial Simón Bolívar, was that this ephemeral state would expand even more. Are you interested in learning about the true Bolivarian dream? Alright, then stay until the end of the video. As always, let's go back to the background. We find ourselves in the 1810s, when the vast majority of Latin American countries were in their respective struggles for independence from the Spanish crown, being influenced by the ideals of freedom from the French Revolution, and taking advantage of the fact that Spain was in turn fighting in the Napoleonic Wars. More specifically, in the Captaincy General of Venezuela, one of the main heroes from the upper classes of Caracas, Simón Bolívar, stands out. The liberator manages to convince Francisco de Miranda to participate in the struggle. Simón Bolívar, with his experience as a mercenary in the U.S. War of Independence and French Revolution, became Argentina's first liberator. It is important to mention this character, as he is considered the precursor of American emancipation. This, for his ideals of founding a great state known as Colombia, in honor of the navigator Christopher Columbus, a state that spans from the right bank of the Mississippi River to Tierra del Fuego. These ideas influenced Bolívar to the point of becoming the great dream to which he dedicated his entire life. In the end, after the proclamation of 3 republics by 1819, the Royalists had lost great influence in Venezuela, and Bolívar had proclaimed himself as the president of the Third Republic. In February of that same year, the liberator established the Congress of the Angostura in the current city of Bolívar. In this Congress, a constitution is established that creates the Republic of Colombia, where 3 departments are projected: Cundinamarca, Venezuela, and Quito, although the latter still remained under complete Spanish domination. Likewise, Bolívar is given the title of Liberator and President of the Republic, while the Colombian hero of independence, Francisco de Pablo Santander, was appointed as Vice President. The next step was to consolidate the independence of New Granada, which due to internal conflicts had been retaken by Spain, who established the regime of terror against the independent patriots. This was consecrated with the Battle of Boyacá, where the Patriot coalition of New Granada and Venezuela defeated the Royalist forces, taking Bogotá and establishing it as the new capital of Colombia. Although Pasto and Panama remained under Royalist control, the consolidation of the union between New Granada and Venezuela took place at the Congress of Cúcuta in 1821, established by the hero Antonio Nariño. Here a new constitution was drafted in the city on the border between both countries. After this, Bolívar would continue his liberating campaign, consolidating the independence of Venezuela in the Battle of Carabobo, while Vice President Santander became interim president in Bogotá. At the beginning of the same year, Panamanian Colonel José de Fabrega, who was in command of the Royalist Army, declared the independence of Panama with the support of patriotic societies in the face of little Royalist resistance, which was forced to withdraw. Due to the fear of a Spanish reconquest, the admiration of Panamanian patriots for Bolívar, and the previous belonging to the Viceroyalty of New Granada, Panama, voluntarily joins the Great Colombia. Bolívar then became Venezuela's first independent country. Bolívar's Bolivian government is highly respected globally. This is reflected in that during the ephemeral Dominican independence of 1821 attempts were made to join the Great Colombia, and by constitution it is consolidated as an associated state until the Haitian occupation. Likewise, in Cuba and Puerto Rico there were also pretensions to join Colombia, although by then they did not manage to gain independence from Spain. For his part, Bolívar now undertook the southern campaigns. The next target was Quito, where he delegated command to his trusted man, Antonio José de Sucre. With reinforcements from Peru and the then free province of Guayaquil, the Patriots defeated the Spaniards in the Battle of Pichincha. After Bolívar's triumphant entry into the square of Quito, he meets the remembered Manuelita Sáenz, who would become his lover and companion. Remember this fact. After naming Sucre as the superintendent of Quito, Bolívar leaves for Guayaquil. It's important to note that the people of Guayaquil had proclaimed themselves as a province free from Spain since 1820. Here, the meeting between the liberators Bolívar and San Martín during the Guayaquil interview stands out, where the future of the province, as well as that of Peru, then known as the Protectorate of San Martín, was decided. It turns out that the last royalist strongholds were in the highlands of Upper and Lower Peru. While San Martín planned to turn it into a monarchy, Bolívar opted for a republic. The Venezuelan liberator ends up imposing himself in such a way that San Martín chooses to withdraw, abandoning his ideas about the destiny of Peru, as well as the annexation of Guayaquil, which became part of Gran Colombia. Bolívar remained in the race. After delegating the Pasto campaign, which ended in 1824, Bolívar now heads to Peru, along with Sucre. After receiving the title of Liberator Dictator from the Peruvian Congress, Bolívar triumphs in the battles of Pliny and Ayaculte, after which the independence of Peru is consolidated. While the superficial idea of this campaign was to expel the royalist forces from South America to ensure the independence of Colombia, more than one person thought that Bolívar's next step was to annex Peru to his project. In fact, after the expulsion of the royalists from Upper Peru under Sucre's command, and the decision of the Deliberative Assembly to keep it as an independent state, the province of Charca became independent under the name of the Republic of Bolívar in honor of the Liberator, as a state associated with Gran Colombia. However, the new Peruvian leaders labeled Bolívar as a tyrant, and they were determined to exert influence over the new state, which changed its name the following year. Likewise, upon Bolívar's return to Colombia, they removed him from his position in Peru without any consideration, thus severing the possibility of continuing the Gran Colombia project to the south. It is important to know about the Southern Campaign, as this is where the disagreements between Santander, whose goal was to build the Republic of Colombia, and Bolívar, who sought to continue expanding it, begin. The Liberator began to gain detractors in Bogotá who opposed his campaigns in Peru and Bolivia, which, while ensuring the independence of Colombia, also emptied the state's coffers. Yes, the economic crisis was taking over the country. It's important to note that Colombia had been divided into various departments. The current Venezuela was divided into the departments of Orinoco, Maturi, Venezuela, and Zulia, Colombia into Boyacá, Cundinamarca, Cauca, and Magdalena, in Quito, Guayaquil, and Azuay, and Panama was referred to as the Isthmus Department. In the end, upon his return, Bolívar found a country divided between Santanderistas and Bolivarians. Likewise, the then governor of Venezuela and hero of the Battle of Carabobo, José Antonio Páez, initiated secessionist movements, encouraged by the economic crisis that also hit Caracas. Tensions increased with Bolívar's proposal to establish his constitution at the expense of the one agreed upon in Cúcuta. In Bolívar's centralist constitution, for which he is still criticized to this day, the lifelong president was granted many powers, which is why it was compared to the monarchy he so criticized. For his part, Santander proposed modifying the constitution for a more federalist one. To avoid continuing this political war, both sides convened the Ocana Convention. Representatives from every region and province will attend this to decide. However, this ended in failure after the Bolivarians left the venue proclaiming Bolívar as dictator. This fact was ratified by him in August of the same year, dismissing the Congress in Santander. With this, Bolívar gained even more detractors. External problems are added to internal ones. It turns out that his old ally in Peru, José de la Mar, invades Bolivia. In addition, he carries out the naval blockade of Guayaquil, a province they intended to annex. Thus, the Great Colombo-Peruvian War breaks out. However, none of the republics were in a position to start an armed conflict, so it is resolved diplomatically, remaining in a status quo antebellum, leaving territorial disputes pending. The political crisis in Colombia ends with the September Conspiracy, in which a group of Bolívar's detractors organize an assassination attempt on his life. If it weren't for the help of Manuela Sáenz, it would have been consummated. So the Patriot earns the nickname of the Liberator of the Liberator. For their part, Many of the conspirators are shot, and Santander, of whom it is doubted whether he was part of this, was sent into exile. Although Bolívar now had all the powers, his government was hampered by the deterioration of his health. Secessionist desires in Panama, Ecuador, and especially in Venezuela, since the Bolivarian constitution did not cease to grow. Bolívar then convened an admirable Congress to try to reconcile with all parties, but his efforts were futile. Finally, Bolívar resigns in May 1830 after this convention, and in the face of advancing tuberculosis. In September of the same year, Ecuador establishes its own constitution, formalizing the separation from Gran Colombia. Páez in Venezuela does the same during the Congress of Valencia, in addition to banning Bolívar from entering the new country, despite it being his birthplace. The remnant of what was Gran Colombia would be transformed the following year into the Republic of New Granada. A defeated Bolívar retreats to his final destination in Santa Marta due to health reasons, not before learning of the assassination of his always loyal friend Sucre, apparently to prevent him from having a successor. The liberator dies in December of 1830, knowing that his great dream of a united and free America had failed. What's your view? Was the Bolivarian dream achievable? Do you consider this unforgettable character a true liberator or a traitor who was blinded by power? Don't forget to leave your comment, and if you liked this video, support me with a like and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on my social networks, and if you're interested in supporting this project, any donation on Patreon is welcome. See you next time.